Hey everyone, Morgan here. So today I wanted to talk about abandoned places and kind of their worth when it comes to, I don't know, bugging out or finding like a safe haven inside of a city or, finding some temporary shelter, whatever the case may be. We may want to look at certain kind of abandoned places and objects. And when I talk about abandoned places, I'm not just talking about like abandoned buildings, though abandoned buildings are usually, the first thing that most people think of, especially if you're like in the middle of a city, right? You'll see probably tons of abandoned buildings, a lot of abandoned industrial places, abandoned office buildings. But there are definitely some considerations that we need to consider, some things we need to consider here before, looking at abandoned buildings or abandoned places in general as like a solid option. So first of all, I love abandoned places. I think, it shows us kind of like what used to be there, what may have happened to the location. I mean, it makes your mind just wander, like what happened? Why is this place abandoned now? The history of a lot of abandoned places is very fascinating too. It's just maybe like a lot of abandoned mines, a lot of abandoned, mining towns, things like that. Ghost towns. Ghost towns are really an interesting option. So this is just some things that we have to consider. First of all, you want to consider location. So if the location is really popular, let's say the abandoned buildings or abandoned places or whatever are like in a national park or a state park or something like that, there are a lot of preserved buildings and things like that. They might be quote unquote abandoned, but they're trying to preserve the history a little bit or something like that. So you have to understand how popular it is. If you know about the location, so do other people. Okay, and not just other people. If you know about the location, then most likely so do other critters, right? So let's say you're looking at a potential cave to spend the night. Well, who else knows about this, right? You have to keep that in mind. Not just what other people, but what other animals and critters might know of this location as well. I read this story once of this woman who was on a survival program or something, and they were doing a solo overnighter. And she had found this cave to take, shelter in. And a cougar came up on her in the cave. It was obviously something that the cougar, was sleeping in or whatever, and actually attacked her. And she got away, and she's fine and she's alive and everything. But you just have to think about this stuff. And, there may be a lot of signs that you can see, any disturbed earth, obviously, if you see a sign, if you see like a cave that has a whole bunch of graffiti or something, that's very well known, for people or whatever. So, if you think that it's a good idea to stay there, so does somebody else, temporarily, long-term, whatever your plan is for these abandoned places, right? So just be aware of that. Also be aware of how structurally sound it is. A lot of these places, they're not going to be structurally sound. They've been sitting and decaying no matter how, preserved it may look. The floors could be giving out, the roof could be giving out. It could be a much more dangerous situation than it is, to get shelter, even just temporarily. You may be better off sleeping under a tree or something, right? Putting up a little tarp and sleeping under that instead of going inside the abandoned building. But, of course, everything just depends. But you do need to understand, there are a lot of buildings that maybe were burned or, structurally compromised. So they're not good ideas just in general. Now they may be good, quick, safe, not safe, but just quick resting points, like, oh, I need some shelter from the sun or whatever. I'm just going to, pop in here and just sit down for a second or whatever. But, maybe not like an overnighter or something like that. And again, I just want to reiterate, you want to make sure, of the location of the place. If it's something like, this is a school that is for sale right now currently, and this school would make, I think, an awesome, like home base during an SHTF situation. Every time I go by it, I want to buy this place. It's so cool. But it's places like these. This high school is in the middle of a popular tourist town, and so it may be a good place, but this may be more of like a good community place for for a solace for a bunch of people, for you to say, hey, here's shelter for, everybody, just come on in or whatever, if that's something that you're interested in as well. We need to keep our safety top of mind. When you go to an abandoned place, like I've said before, even if it looks abandoned, nobody's there, it looks like nobody's been there, you have to take your security in top of mind. So when you're going up to the abandoned place, even if it looks like, nobody's inside or whatever, make sure that nobody is inside. Take it slow. Keep your security top of mind. Especially if it's like a boarded up house or something you can't see inside, that doesn't mean nobody is inside, or no creatures inside or whatever the case may be, right? Also, you have to keep your own security in mind when you're actually inside of the abandoned place, whatever it is, a train car, a house, whatever, low lights, or no lights, staying away from windows, these kinds of things, so you don't attract attention to yourself. But you also have to be aware for those other people that may be strolling up on this place, having the exact same idea as you. That it's temporary shelter. So just everything that we, keep in mind. I'm always looking at abandoned places, and I think that they're just fascinating to me. And I like to just, look at a little bit of history and think about, why was this abandoned, and then especially with caves, love caves. But for me personally, I would only recommend cave be a very temporary solution, not a permanent, like a bug out solution or anything like that. And that's my thoughts on abandoned places. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Let me know in the comments down below. Conquer tomorrow by preparing today. Talk to you later. Bye.